Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to my stream. Hello, hello. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy whatever you celebrate. We are live. Got no Christmas Eve plans. Gonna hang out with my family tomorrow, but today we're streaming. At least for a little bit. I do have a new overlay. I still might change it or update it. I don't know. I might keep it. Can everybody hear and see the stream pretty well? Do you guys have any holiday plans or anything like that? Like I said, I'm hanging out with my family tomorrow, but that's it. Just for a couple hours one day. I might get up with some friends after that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not I haven't really bought many presents. Bought a couple of little things, like something for my mom, and I did a Secret Santa with some friends, but we all, it's cheap gifts. How's my year been for my channel? I like your videos quite a bit. Seem to be only getting better. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that this has been a really good year for my channel. I've really figured it out, I guess. Or I figured out what I want to do going forward, at least in the immediate future. And obviously I crossed my goal of 100,000 subscribers, which is really cool. But I think 2019 has the potential to be even better. Because my plan is to do more things and more content, not just on my channel, but on other channels and even other platforms. probably gonna relaunch my gaming channel, and I'm probably gonna do more stuff on my second channel. I want to start streaming on Twitch. I may even think about doing a podcast, but I'm only one guy, so there's a limit to the amount of stuff I can actually do. I do have a Twitch. I haven't used it recently though. The game that I'm playing I play like competitive games. And the games that I'm playing right now are Smash Brothers and Overwatch. But I assume my stream will just be a variety stream. But it's probably going to be mostly competitive games like fighting games and MOBAs and first-person shooters, and maybe even trading card games, and maybe even stuff like chess and poker. But I'll probably play other stuff too, especially like once I get a decent amount of following, to where people will just watch. Because I don't really I have something like 800 followers on Twitch, but I never use it, so I don't really have a following on Twitch. So when I stream, I don't really get many viewers. But if I get back into the groove, then maybe I can build it up. Battlefront 2. Yeah, I never played that. What am I getting for Christmas? I don't know. I think I've already gotten most of the stuff that I'm gonna get. My mom bought me a crock pot and a printer, which are two things that I needed, so that's good. And then a friend of mine, like I said, I did a Secret Santa with a group of friends, and I got a Zelda manga from a friend, which is really cool. Actually, is it in here? I think it's in the other room. Merry Christmas. What's up, Karen? What's up, Debo? And also, a friend of mine gave me a vacuum cleaner, which is another thing that I needed. It wasn't really like a gift. Well, I mean, I guess it was a gift, but it wasn't like a planned gift. Like, a friend of mine just bought a new vacuum, and I was at his house, and I was like, well, are you using your old one? Because I need one. And he was like, no, you can have it, basically. What would it take for you not to be an atheist anymore? I guess evidence of a God. Kind of silly to think something came out of nothing. I don't think that's silly. And I don't think that's really what atheists believe. Well, I guess it depends on who you ask. I don't think that religious people have any basis in calling beliefs silly, because religious people believe a lot of silly stuff for which there's no evidence. But I guess it kind of depends on the context of what you're talking about. Thoughts on God of War winning game of the year? I mean, that's fine. I didn't play God of War, so I don't know. But I don't care, I guess. How aware is your family of your atheism? How do you manage that? I think that I mean, I know that my mom knows my atheist. It doesn't really come up. So I don't know. I don't really have to manage it because it doesn't come up. I don't think you can convince anyone of anything by calling them silly, especially when they're not hurting anyone. I mean, yeah. I've moved beyond trying to convince people of stuff, but if someone wants to have a discussion with me, I'm happy to talk about it. But I've at this point, I think I've heard pretty much every argument that, particularly Christians, but also just religious people in general. I'm pretty sure I've heard every argument, and none of them are great. So I don't really seek out religious discussions anymore. But I'll do it if someone is interested. At least until we get to the point where there's nothing else to talk about, which we can probably get to that point very quickly, since I'm pretty familiar with most of the arguments. What do you think of Titoism? I don't know what that is. Why is getting drunk the worst thing I've ever experienced? It sounds like you got too drunk. There's definitely a level at which getting too drunk is really bad, and it's really miserable, and it's terrible. A little bit of getting a little buzz, feeling tipsy can be really great, and it can make your night really fun, but you can cross into the line where it just is miserable. Do you have a particular kind of pet that you would like to have at some point? Not really. Sometimes I think I should have a pet, but I'm not a huge animal person, really. But I'm sure that if I had a pet that I would become attached to it, but I don't really have any specific desire for a specific type of pet. Well, it's not necessarily an atheist stream, but it's an atheist who is streaming, and I will answer any questions or comment on things about atheism if that's what y'all want to talk about. I'm getting hypnotized by that border around the stream chat. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I was hoping that it wouldn't be too distracting, but I don't know. We'll see. Am I looking forward to Christmas Day? Sure. Yeah. Just gonna get together with family and eat some good food, so I always like that. The universe is not obligated to make sense to you. Right. There are definitely things that we don't know. I don't like to say that there are things that are beyond our comprehension, because I don't know what we're going to be able to learn in the future. It's possible. I mean, probably not in our lifetimes, but it's possible eventually humans will understand just things that seem incomprehensible to us right now. I got so drunk, I blacked out and bit my cousin on his cheek. Yeah, you gotta find your limit. I think that I don't know, man. It just depends on the person, I guess. Some people are able to get really drunk and still function and still not be a problem. And other people, when they get drunk, they just become insufferable and out of control. And those type of people can still drink, but they just have to limit themselves. So you just have to be honest with yourself and what you want to do. And some people can't drink at all. Some people shouldn't drink at all because either they get drunk really quickly and they become a problem, or they once they start drinking they can't stop. And even if you don't get out of control, it's just not a good thing to do for your health. Is there anything you would tell yourself when you first started posting YouTube videos? There's a lot of things I would tell myself. Probably the main thing is focus on your content. Don't focus on anything else. Focus on your content, at least when you're starting out. That's my advice to anyone who's starting a YouTube channel or who's trying to build a YouTube channel. The number one thing is make the videos better. Focus on your content. Don't focus on the views. Don't focus on subscribers. Don't focus on money. Don't focus on fucking tags and titles and thumbnails. Focus on the content. All that other stuff matters, but it matters much less while you're still figuring out how to make good content. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Same to you, Tony. Fellow atheist. Cool. I love the new video on Tina Fey, critical in all the best ways. Thank you. Appreciate it, Lucy. Did I make this overlay? The graphics were not made by me, but I assembled all of it together. But like the animation was not made by me. I'm going to an Indian restaurant this Christmas Day. That's cool. What's up, Pure African Queen? You got a drink of choice? I want to try some new stuff. I usually don't do mixed drinks, but I'm open to trying them out. I just always order a whiskey and Diet Coke. I don't really care what the whiskey is. Obviously, some whiskeys are better than others. And different ones are good for different things. Like Jack Daniels is really good mixed with Coke, but it's not very good in anything else. It's definitely not good by itself, in my opinion at least. Crown Royal is really good. Maker's Mark is really good. But when I go to a bar or something, I just order the cheapest whiskey in Diet Coke, and that's fine with me. I prefer to get super stoned than drunk. Fair enough. I mean, I think you're less likely to ruin your or someone else's life if you're stoned than you're drunk. I generally avoid it just because it's super illegal where I live, and I just don't have time to deal with that. Thanks for all the positive comments on my video. It actually is getting higher than average views, so that's good. Thanks, Sharkula. Any tips on making stuff look good with a cheaper camera? Lights. Make sure it's in focus and use a lot of light. That's how you make stuff look good with a cheaper camera. And obviously there's things like composition and having an attractive background. Like this stream, I have a really shitty background, but I'm just limited to where I can stream. It would look a lot better if the background was more interesting. I also have poor lighting, which is why I look kind of dark and grayed out and stuff. I can like open the window a little bit, which could help. But yeah, lights. And if you don't have lights, just sit in front of a window, because nothing is brighter than the sun. Do I know people who don't drink? Yeah, I know several people that don't drink. What do I think of Steve Shives? I actually haven't watched one of his videos in a while, but I think Steve Shives is fine. I don't agree with Steve Shives on everything, but I think overall he's a good guy. Is there a way to get good cheap lighting that isn't the sun? I don't know exactly what you consider cheap, but I mean, you can just buy, like when you go to the store, look for bulbs that say daylight. Like the average bulb that you get for your house usually is soft white, which is like a really yellowy tungsten-y look, which is not good for film or for photography. Look for daylight. It's much brighter, or it's much whiter, and that's what you want. So you can get away, like just buy a bunch of cheap desk lamps and buy daylight color light bulbs and just put like 3 or 4 of them in front of your face while you're filming. But the sun is just a really easy fix to get really good lighting. And if you can afford like floodlights, that's even better than like a regular, just like a regular small light bulb. Get like big floodlights. That's actually what I use. I use big floodlights. And honestly, my lighting is not that good. Like I think I need more light. I need bigger lights for my videos. I just like how you can critique something you enjoy. It seems like a lot of on YouTube that if you criticize something that you have to hate it. At least that's how a lot of NTSJWs think. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of those people sort of project. So they think, well, this is what I would do, so this must be what everyone else is doing as well. But I don't know. I try to filter out a lot of the just outside noise when it comes to stuff like that. Like, that's another like thing about videos. Like another thing that I would tell my younger self when I started YouTube, like you need to just make the stuff that you want to make and like trust your audience to understand where you're coming from. You know, obviously you're going to get some shitty comments. You're going to get people that, have no intention of engaging what you're doing, but your core audience is, they're going to be charitable to what you're saying. So, no one is going to, I feel like my core audience, they're not going to watch my video and they're going to be like, oh, well, why you got to hate on Tina Fey? Like, you're just being hateful. You're just trying to criticize everything. Like, I feel like my audience is going to understand where I'm coming from. And I think a lot of people, especially when they're making content like this and they're first starting out, they feel the urge to sort of like, I don't know, even like kind of dumb down what they're saying and sort of avoid the nuance because they don't think that their audience is going to get it. And I feel like that's just not the way to do it. Now, obviously, you may not communicate things in the best way, and that's just a skill that you develop over time. But I do think that you need to trust your audience and don't like patronize your audience and don't like insult their intelligence. Filming tutorials on second channels. I don't know. There's so many tutorials on YouTube. There's like no reason for me to do that. I actually really like knowing that what I like has imperfections. Yeah, I mean, everything has imperfections. I don't know. We live in this, I'm not the first person to say this, but we live in this like cancel culture where everything has to be immediately canceled every time it does or says something problematic. And I just don't, that's not really the way that I live my life personally. You watch any anime recently? Nope. Any underrated YouTube channels you would recommend? Underrated YouTube channels. Well, I have my section on my channel where I list channels under 100,000 subscribers that I think deserve more subs, but I don't know if that's considered underrated. Like, I don't know. I find that most channels that know what they're doing and they're making really good videos and doing it consistently, most of them like have a decent audience. Let me look at who's on here. I think TMM is underrated if you're into that sort of thing. And that's another thing. It depends on if you're into it. If you're into that type of stuff. Brittany Simon is underrated, but again, very niche channel that you may not be into. Super Princess Tea Party. That's a good example. That's a channel that's really underrated. She only has about 5,000 subscribers, and I think the quality of her videos exceeds the amount of exposure she gets. Appreciate it, Zoe. I'm glad you liked the video. What do I think of the Boondocks? I love the Boondocks. I think the comic strip was better than the show, but the show was very good. Did you hear that China are making an anime about Marx? I did not hear that. An actual joke, yeah. I've seen like one or two of the videos, but the one that I saw was really good. So I probably will recommend an actual joke. She has 8.2k subscribers now. That's cool. I think last time I checked, she had like 1,000. But underrated. When you say underrated, the way that I took it was just people that don't have a lot of subscribers. But most of these people are rated highly by the people that have seen it. So like I think Philosophy Tube is underrated, but he has like what 300,000 subscribers. So I would guess that that's not what you mean. But I think he should have like 1 million subscribers. I would say that ContraPoints is underrated, but I'm pretty sure she's going to get 1 million subscribers like by the end of next year. Have you ever watched the Why Are You So Angry series on Innuendo Studios? I have not. I just recently got into Innuendo Studios. I need to watch some. I need to go back and watch some of the other videos. Why? What did you? Wait. Why did you get rid of the follow me? Well, I mean, I just did it for one video. It's not gone forever. I don't think it really fits in the voiceover style video, but all of my videos are not gonna be voiceover videos, so. Are black Christians bothered by how progressive the Democrats have gotten? I honestly have no idea. I don't really hang out with too many black Christians. I think in general, black Christians are still vote Democrat. Yeah, I've definitely seen it. Those "Why Are You So Angry" videos have been recommended to me several times. I just haven't gotten around to watching them because I wanted to watch it because he talks about Anita Sarkeesian and some other stuff. What are your thoughts on PewDiePie and the several controversies he's been involved in? I don't know. I can't really deal with PewDiePie anymore. I don't really pay attention to him anymore. He just seems like an idiot. he just seems like he doesn't ever think about the consequences of his actions. And at this point, I just have no reason to believe that he's gonna be better. Because I think that he's just thoroughly concerned with maintaining his sort of edgelord persona, and that's something I think you see with a lot of YouTubers. Like I'm almost positive that PewDiePie is probably a really nice, decent guy in person, but I think a lot of these people they feel like they have to maintain these edgy personas online, and I don't think that's gonna go away anytime soon. Chad, thank you for the $20 super chat. Merry Christmas to you, 1J. Merry Christmas to you. I appreciate it.
Merry Christmas to you, 1J.
Doesn't. Yeah, I mean, and I think he's a guy that he never really had to learn. He was never like forced to learn how to behave, I guess, because he got rich at like 20 years old. So he never really had to answer to anybody. And I don't know, the first couple times, it seemed like he was gonna try to do better, but it seems like it has gotten worse. So, I don't pay attention to him anymore. I don't think it to be a good use of my time and attention. I don't really have the desire to beat up anyone. What did PewDiePie do? He did several things. I don't know if I really feel like just listing all of the controversies PewDiePie has been involved in. What do you think of Destiny? I find him pretty problematic and frustrating a lot of the time, but when he goes head to head with white nationalists, I find it so incredibly satisfying. I mean, I kind of feel the same way. I don't know. I think that he over time he's sort of cleaned up his act a little bit. And there are certain things that I think other people are uncomfortable with that I don't care about as much. But generally, like when it comes to politics, I feel like I agree with him like 99% of the time. And I think that he is actually one of the most important like voices on YouTube right now. Like he's providing probably the best arguments against the right on YouTube, like the best actual debates, face-to-face debates. Like he does that better than pretty much everyone on the internet. So I feel like he's pretty important. Do you have a favorite Christmas movie or TV special? I don't know. I don't watch a lot of Christmas movies. I really like Elf. That's one of my favorites. I like Die Hard. What do you think of Tucker Carlson losing advertisers? I'm glad it's happening, but I don't get the business logic. I mean, why now? He's been awful for years. Well, I mean, but no one really brought it up for years. I mean, these businesses, I think they're pretty savvy. They support things up until they start losing money, or up until they perceive that they're about to start losing money. And if Tucker Carlson's nonsense is not a headline, it's not in the news, it's not being talked about on Twitter, then the advertisers have no reason to leave. Like, make no mistake, this is almost never a moral principled decision by these advertisers. It's always a money decision. Hearing that he uses ableist language really puts me off. Who, Destiny? I think that, well, that's what I was talking about. He's like, he seems to be consciously making an effort to improve in areas like that. Like, I'm pretty, like, he used to, for example, he used to call people autistic all the time, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't do that anymore, like, at all. I could be wrong about that. Have you ever been in a Hanukkah party? Nope. I think. Well, see, I don't know. I think Destiny. We've sort of watched him evolve in many ways, because he only in the past like 1 or 2 years did he really go on this like spree of debates, and I think he learned a lot from those debates. And one of the things that he learned is the sort of the responsibility you have when you have a large audience, because he debated a lot of those YouTube anti-SJWs with, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And, you can tell usually what a lot of those people do is they sort of like play the sort of devil's advocate role, where they don't outright support a bigoted, mindset, or they don't outright say that they agree with the far right, but they entertain it. Or even sometimes they like make it, they prop it up and make it seem reasonable. And I think a lot of times it's very disingenuous and like dishonest, but that's what happens a lot of the time. And, you can say stuff like that. You can say, well, that's not my view. I'm just here for the discussion. You can say that, but when you have an audience, you need to be responsible about what you're portraying to that audience. And I think that Destiny noticed that, and I think he's talked about it a few times, but he's noticed that with a lot of the people that he's had discussions with, like Sargon and fucking Andy and some other people. And I think that has influenced him to think more about his relationship to his audience. I find it really hard to believe people are going to stop going to the International House of Pancakes because they advertise on Carl's show. I don't find that hard to believe. Especially nowadays. What is your YouTube setup? What do you mean by setup? There hasn't been a successful mobilization of the Black left since the Black Panthers. What? Are you implying that you don't think Black Lives Matter is successful? What cameras, mics, lights do you use for videos? Well, my main camera is a Canon T3i, which I hope to upgrade soon. I just use just some cheap floodlights that I ordered from Amazon. For voiceovers, I use this mic right here, which is an Audio Technica. I don't even remember. It's like the popular one, the AT4040, I think it is. And for the other videos, I have a lapel mic. It sucks actually. I need to get a better one. But it's like the Rode. Not, is it a Rode? Yeah, it's like a Rode Mini something. I can't remember what it's called. It's just a little shitty, cheap lapel mic. Thoughts on Anita Sarkeesian? I personally disagree with her more than I agree with her, but I think that how a portion of the game has reacted to her and her criticisms is very, very wrong. I mean, she's fine. She's just a feminist. She's just like I don't even know the big deal about Anita Sarkeesian. Like, I mean, I understand because I used to be one of those people that was sort of anti Anita Sarkeesian, but once I just like shut up and stood back and analyzed the situation, it became very curious. It was like, well, what? I don't even understand why people are mad anymore. I assume just because she went after video games, and you know the gamers are trash. So if you go after video games, the gamers are gonna jump on you. But I mean, I don't really follow her that closely, so I'm not even sure what kind of things I would agree or disagree with. It seems like she mostly just says pretty basic feminist stuff, which is fine. And even with the video games, like the crux of the tropes versus women in video game series was, hey, video games are sexist sometimes, which is I feel like a very non-controversial thing to say. It's something that's obviously true. But I mean, like, she got a few things wrong about a few games, but that obviously doesn't warrant that kind of backlash. I think Anita Sarkeesian was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Kind of is a pretty tragic story. Merry Christmas, Charles. I definitely think that the left needs to do a lot better at obtaining allies. The left is very good at making enemies, but often pretty bad at making allies. Best mic for camera without mic support. Um, Wait, without mic support. I mean, I don't know. It depends. I guess it depends on your setup. Like if you're sitting at a desk, you can get like one of the cheap blue mics, like the Blue Yeti or the Blue Snowball. But if you're just standing up in front of your camera and you don't really have anywhere to put a Blue Yeti, you can just use the onboard. Like I'm pretty sure every video camera has a mic on it, and they're usually decent. I mean, well, on DSLR mics, the mics are pretty bad. If you have a DSLR mic, I mean, I guess you're saying the one that doesn't have a place to mount the mic. I'm not sure. What's your favorite video game and why is it Mass Effect? I hate Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2 is really fun, but the first one is bad. I mean, I think that most of the, well, not most, but I think a lot of the criticisms in the trope series is pretty like nitpicky and just like it's almost boring, to be honest. But it definitely doesn't warrant like a violent reaction. It's like, well, I don't know about that, but that's interesting. Now I'll go watch something else. Also, Anita has done a lot of stuff other than that tropes versus women in video game series. Most of which is better. Like she has a podcast. She did another series called The Freak Show, which is much more like energetic and funny. I have played Smash Ultimate. I've played it a lot, actually. It is fun. Could you say happiness is fundamentally good and suffering is fundamentally bad, and a really smart AI in the future would come to the same conclusion and therefore help us? I don't know. Has there... Wait. I don't know. I mean, is suffering fundamentally bad? I don't know if that's even true. Has there been a violent reaction to Anita Sarkeesian? Is that a serious question? What do you think of the idea that the oppressed have the right to class hatred against their oppressors? I mean, you have the right to hate. Anybody has the right to hate people, but it's not good. No one. I don't think hatred is useful. Oh, I just thought it was common knowledge. Yeah, I mean, Anita is probably the most famous example of online harassment out of control, gone to the extreme. What do you think about the positive and negative effects of capitalism within society? That's a super complex thing. I could like write a book about that, and people have written books about it. I think that capitalism as we do it now is pretty broken and needs to be fixed. It needs to be completely overhauled from the ground up. But there are aspects of capitalism that are appealing to me. Like I like hierarchies and I like market competition and I like uh, the people with the most merit receiving the most profit. But even those ideas don't even work in our current system. So still come across Gamergaters who insist that Gamergate changed the world. I think Gamergate changed the world. I just think it did for the worse. I think Gamergate is probably part of the reason why we have Donald Trump as the president. So I think they've definitely had an effect. It just wasn't a good effect. Gamergate changed everything. It's one of the most significant things to happen in our society, I think. It will probably be it will probably be talked about like in college courses in the future, I think. Like I think it was a really significant thing that happened. Jason, thank you for the $5 super chat. Big fan. Have you read So You've Been Okay. I'll let her read it.
Publicly shamed by John Ronson? It talks about proud shaming and destroying people from the steps.
I haven't read it. That's something I need to write that down actually. That's a book that everyone says you should read. I'll definitely read it. Gamergaters thought feminists reviewing video games was unethical. That's what they meant when they said it was about ethics in games journalism. Yeah. Well, I never really bought that ethics in gaming journalism was what Gamergate was about. That was just sort of the front. I'm sure that there were some, poor saps involved in that actually believed that was the point, but I don't think that was the point. What's up, TMM, by the way? Someone asked early about underrated channels, and I said TMM is one of them. Thanks for not turning out to be a reactionary. Well, I don't know. It doesn't really feel like something I should be congratulated for. The thing with me, and I've talked about this before I even started to think about the actual arguments that are being made, the thing that turned me off was just the hatred and the vitriol and the general being an asshole. And this is why I'm so opposed to this even on the left, because I just don't get down with that sort of thing. So even when I was still a little bit sympathetic to a lot of these anti-feminist arguments, whenever it turned into just pure hatred and vitriol, I immediately was turned off. So honestly, that's the first thing that turned me away from all that stuff. That's just not my jam at all. I don't think it's okay to be an asshole. And I don't appreciate it on my side either. And this I get a lot of heat when I talk about it, because I think people literally believe that it's okay to be an asshole if you're right, but I just don't think that's the way to be. What are your thoughts on issues within progressive groups, like the organizers for the Women's March, and how do we prevent said issues from happening? Wait, what issue are you talking about? I mean, it depends on what issue, I guess. I feel like each issue probably has to be tackled separately and has a different solution. Merry Christmas. You made my year more informative, and grateful that I discovered your channel. I appreciate that. Thank you, Luana. Just found your channel a couple hours ago. Awesome. Shaka, thank you. Yeah, I think that my last video has brought in a higher than average number of subscribers, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I noticed, I mean, not to, drag you, J Salt, but that people, that's how, I noticed that's how people talk when we talk about Anita Sarkeesian. It's always very nebulous, and it's always like she just generally does this, she says this, but it's like hard to really get the specifics out. And it's probably something you haven't thought about in a while, but I just noticed that that's a trend. And that's how it is with a lot of people. All of these people that become massive targets of these like sort of reactionary like hate mobs, no one can ever point to anything specific. It's always like this vague sentiment that they've been led to believe, and which is often not true. Like I saw it with Francesca Ramsey, who was another person who was a target of widespread online bullying and harassment. And it's like people would say stuff like, well, she was just like really anti-white. She always said shit about white people and she hates white people. And it's like, well, what? Like, can you like point to her saying that ever? But they never can. What do you think of Ben Shapiro? Well, I can see what you think of him. I think Ben Shapiro is pretty bad. I think that he is one of the most harmful voices in mainstream discourse today. I also think he's kind of a dick. I would love to see Destiny debate Ben Shapiro. That would be so satisfying because I know Destiny would just trash him, because Ben Shapiro is a very like dishonest debater, but he's very good at putting himself in positions where either the person he's talking to isn't going to challenge him very much, or the person he's talking to is not well equipped to challenge him very much. I'm new to your channel. I'm wondering what your username means. T1J is short for the one janitor, and the one janitor is just a silly screen name that I made when I was in high school that stuck with me. If you want like a more thorough answer, you can watch a video I made. It's called "Why Am I Called the One Janitor?" And I explain that, and I explain it a little more, but it's not a very interesting story. But that's pretty much it. I appreciate that, Lena. What do you think about Kyle Kalinske? I don't know. I don't really watch his videos that much, but he strikes me as kind of like edgelordy, which is just kind of cringy to me. I'm sure that I agree with him on most things, but I don't know. His channels, like his videos, often just seem very like I don't know, just like pretentious. I don't even know how to describe what I'm saying. Like if you go to Secular Talk and you look at just the titles of his videos, they're just like really cringy. And this is not my jam, you know, like fucking, let me see if I can find one. It's just weird. It's like even like the most recent one is it says Alex Jones so unhinged he even creeps out Gavin McInnes. That one's not that bad, but it's just like that's not really the type of videos that I want to watch. Like I don't want to watch a video where you're just like roasting Alex Jones. Like who gives a shit about that? How's that helpful? Snowflakes melt because Jeremy Corbyn said something mean. I don't know. It's just not my jam. Like I just don't really. It just seems like very masturbatory and it doesn't really like help anything. How do you feel about anti-feminism being the new atheism in the sense that most people lean towards it simply because it's widely considered to be rational? I don't think that it's widely considered to be rational though. Maybe. I don't know. That's something to think about because for at least for me, I became an atheist, you know, in large part because it seemed the most rational thing. And that's just like a genuine thing. But I think a lot of people follow anti-feminists not for that reason specifically. I think people become anti-feminists or follow anti-feminists because like just out of this sort of defensive reaction to social justice, because they think that they're being attacked for being men or for being white. Like I feel like it has little to do with actual rationality and reason and skepticism. I really don't think that's a actual big part of it. That's what they say, but I don't really think that's what it is. But the thing about it is maybe a lot of people become atheists for reasons other than what I'm thinking of, you know. Maybe they do it because they think it's edgy, or because they think it makes them cool, or because they think they want to be part of this like minority class. I don't know. If you turn into a Super Saiyan, will your dreadlocks come undone? I don't know. It seems like the Super Saiyans, their hair is in big chunks. It's the hair doesn't come undone. Thoughts on Gavin McInnes and the Proud Boys? Well, it just seems like a bunch of edgy racists, right? I don't really listen to Chapo Trap House, so I don't know. I've listened to like 2 episodes of the podcast, and I don't know. It's like it's funny, I guess, but I don't really know what to think about it. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it. Snapple is if something can make you feel that you are intellectually superior, and that's probably the common trend between atheism and sort of anti SJWism. But that sort of feeling of superiority is not. It's not usually based on actual skepticism or actual reason. It's just sort of the I don't know. That's the group. That's what the group is. So I guess that's what's appealing about it. And that's always toxic, by the way. When one of the defining aspects of a group is how much smarter they are than other people or how much better they are than other people, that's always toxic. EOTW timer. Thank you for the $2.99. Hi, buddy. Hi to you. Addicted to the shindig. I don't know what that means. I think that anti-SJWs are probably often more persuasive than SJWs, but I definitely don't think they make more sense than SJWs. But you can be persuasive in many ways, and it doesn't have to be in a way that involves saying things that make sense. Oh, that's a Red Hot Chili Peppers reference. Okay, I get it now. If you can appeal to someone's biases and appeal to someone's emotions, you can be very persuasive without saying anything remotely close to the truth. So I can understand why people fall for that sort of stuff. But from a factual point of view, from a rational point of view, the anti-SJWs they're like on the same level as like flat earthers, in my opinion. Like they rarely say anything that is factual or reasonable. But I can understand, especially if you're appealing to someone that's already disgruntled. And I know this because I've sort of been in that situation. If you're talking to someone who already feels kind of like, man, these feminists are just really jumping down my back, and then someone comes in and tells you, oh, the feminists are they want you to hate yourself and they blah 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 and fucking, so it's very easy to be persuasive in situations like that. What am I doing tomorrow? Going to eat with some family and just hanging out. That's pretty much it. Maybe late night I might get up with some friends if they're doing anything. But that's about it. Have you ever considered doing calls on stream where you chat with the viewer? I don't know. I've thought about it, but I'm not sure. I'm just afraid that someone's going to troll me, and I don't have time for that. But other people do things like that successfully, so I don't know. Do you think the anti-SJW movement will ever go away? I mean, the anti-SJW movement is just the next iteration of the reactionary politics, and reactionary politics is never going to go away. The amount of influence and power it have will vary depending on the culture and depending on the time. And I think currently, especially on YouTube, I think the anti-SJW thing is definitely plateauing, if not dying down. But it's never going to go away because there's always going to be reactionaries. There's always going to be people who favor a return to, or who favor maintaining the status quo, because people there's always going to be a group that benefits from the status quo, and those people will always fight to keep that privilege. And they will always convince other people to fight with them, even people that don't actually benefit from it. By the way, it's very cringy for me to use the term SJW unironically, because I just don't. It just doesn't really mean anything, and I don't even know what people are talking about when they say it. Yeah, I'm a fan of Sean. See, when people say stuff like oppression Olympics, to me, that sounds like you are denying the existence of social injustice, or implying that it doesn't exist to the extent that people say it does. And that's where you kind of lose me, because at that point you're outside reality. And I think that's the problem. That's sort of the problem with anti-SJWs, is they fail to acknowledge the reality of the situation. You don't like, there's the idea that, there's not that much sexism. Women don't have it that bad. Black people don't have it that bad. Trans people don't have it that bad. That's sort of the idea, and it's just not true. It's like provably not true. This idea that social injustice isn't a big deal. It permeates every aspect of society, and it's like provably so. It's not like a bunch of anecdotes. There's like data behind all of it, and that's where you lose me. Like before, when I was talking about the anti-feminists, the first thing that turned me off from the anti-feminists was the fact that they were just assholes. But after that, that's when I began to realize that they were just completely out of touch with reality, and they just ignored the facts of the world. Like there are people who, like, for the big one that I seem to always come back to is the wage gap. That was like one of the main things that made me realize that these people didn't give a shit about data, but just pretty much just dismissing any aspect of gender disparity, claiming that it's not real, claiming that it doesn't exist, when it's provably true that it exists. And then from there, they graduated onto racial politics, and then they would deny the existence of systemic racism or institutionalized racism, which is absurd. Like there's obviously data that proves this, but you can just see it. You can just walk out into the world and see it. So that's why, like, when I hear phrases like oppression Olympics, it's like I don't think you're taking this as seriously as it needs to be taken. I don't know, like I don't know how you can use a term like that if you actually understand how deeply social and economic injustice actually exists in society.
Merry Christmas, you beautiful, amazing man.
Aaron Titus, thank you for the $10. I appreciate that very much. Merry Christmas to you as well. How should we fix the wage gap? I mean, I don't have all of the answers. There's a lot of things we can try, but what we should do something. We should try something. That's the key. Try something, and then go from there. And to some extent, we don't need to fix the wage gap, but we need to fix societal's expectations of women. And obviously that's more easier said than done. Now there's some non-zero aspect of the wage gap that is obvious, that is discrimination. I don't know what percentage of the wage gap is due to discrimination. I don't think 100% of the wage gap is due to discrimination, but it's definitely more than zero. So that's one thing that we can easily start working on is, okay, let's work on reducing discrimination in the workplace, either through more training, more bias training, sensitivity training, getting rid of, the nepotism and things like that. Or if you just have to get the government up in there and start passing laws, sometimes you got to do that shit too. But beyond that, there's things about there's perceptions of women. For example, one of the main contributors to the wage gap is the fact that women are less likely to negotiate their wages than men are, and that leads to a lot of the disparities in wage. But why are women less likely to negotiate their wages? Well, a lot of it is because women are socialized to be more modest and to be more accepting with, whatever they're handed out. But also B, because when women are assertive and when women do negotiate, they are perceived as being, bitchy, bossy, hard to work with, things like that. So those are, it goes deeper than that, than just like the actual number of dollars. But like I said, I don't have all the answers, but we should try something. And we'll go from there. We'll see how it works out, and we can adjust it, or we can just scrap it if it doesn't work. I mean, and if socialism appeals to you, then you can chat with some of the people in the chat there. But I'm not a socialist. What's up, Anna? But yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember sort of the tangent I was going on, but I just think a lot of these discussions are very disingenuous, and I've sort of opted out a lot of these discussions. Right now, I think what I can do, or the way that I can have the most impact, is just to make my arguments through my videos, and just try to put out the message that I want to put out, and just put it out into the world. Because my experience with these online discussions in terms of social justice and economic justice is just no one is really being honest, and everyone just tries to gotcha everybody, and everyone just tries to pwn everybody, and it's just not very fun for me. So it seems like the best thing for me to do would just be just to put my message out there, and hopefully just get some ideas out into the world. And every now and then someone will come forth that actually wants to have a real good faith conversation, and I'm okay with that. But it just hasn't been my experience. I don't know. Whenever I talk about my views, Matthew, people say that I sound like a social democrat. So that, I guess, I don't know. It seems like people who are social democrats often have a lot of different views, or at least different solutions. But I think there's probably an agreement as about the main problems that need to be solved. Do you identify as a liberal? I guess so, yeah. But I don't like labels because, for example, when I say liberal, I guarantee you that every single person in this chat is thinking of something different when they hear that word. But if I'm described as a progressive liberal social democrat, then I will not protest that. That's fine. What was it like doing Brittany's interview? I mean, it was cool. We just got on Google Hangout and she asked me a bunch of questions. I don't know, but it was fun. I like talking to Brittany. Brittany is very cool, and she's just like her mind like kind of just works at 100 miles an hour. It seems like she's just always thinking of different ways to look at things and different questions to ask. But see, the problem is the same people who get upset when you say communism will never work. Those are the same people that say capitalism can never work. But it's the exact same argument. Wayne's World. Wayne's World's awesome. I like Wayne's World 2 more, I think. Oh, no, I don't. The first one's better. I actually thought that I was going to have a small stream today because it was Christmas Eve. But it's actually an above average, at least compared to lately. Going to start a period of no fap. Masturbation has harmed me and quite a few others pretty bad. Same. Shame hardly anyone talks about his issues getting worse. I mean, if you feel like that's what you need to do, then go for it. Would you say 2018 was good, bad, or regular year for you? Definitely a good year. Corruption or not capitalism will always trend towards disparity and inequality. Yeah, but disparity is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't really have a problem with some people having more than other people. Who do you main in Smash? I don't know yet. Actually, I'm leaning towards Snake. I played Snake in Brawl, and I was gonna try a different character, but they brought Snake back, and he's not as good as he was in Brawl, but he's still pretty fun. But I mean, I like Snake. I like Incineroar a lot, but I don't think I'm gonna play. Well, I'll probably play Incineroar a lot, but like if I want to like really try hard and win, I probably won't play Incineroar. Do you envision any long-term positive political developments in the coming year? I mean, probably, but I don't. There's probably going to be a lot of nonsense as well. Thoughts on Francesca Fiorentini? Uh, my experience of her has been positive. I like her. I think she's cool, and I think she's funny. But I don't follow her very closely, so. Well, follow Shadow Fox. Follow me on Twitch, and I'm probably gonna do some viewer games once I start streaming on Twitch. I'm gonna try to stream some Smash. Twitch.tv/the1janitor. I have a Twitch channel. I haven't used it in a long time, but I plan to start using it again. I'm probably going to start off just streaming once a week on Twitch, just like I stream on YouTube once a week. And then if I can get, if I can get a little bit of momentum going, then I'll maybe bump it up to 2 or 3 days a week. Probably not going to be any more than that, because streaming is streaming can get pretty exhausting. Like, my little brother is a streamer and he streams every day, and I don't know how the fuck he does it. Why do you think wealth inequality is justifiable? I don't know. I don't think I think that people who work harder should have more than people who don't. Or I think people who work harder should have more than other people. I think people who implement better ideas should profit more than people who don't. Makes sense to me. Obviously, we don't live in a system where that is necessarily the case. Like, I know a lot of very poor people who work very hard. But the general concept of some people having more because they've contributed more, I'm very okay with that. Or because they have better ideas, have no problem with that. Am I an Oreo? Wow. If you know that the words that you say are hurtful to people, and you do them anyway, it kind of makes you an asshole, doesn't it? Who decides who works harder or have better ideas? I think who works harder is kind of a objectively quantifiable thing, and better ideas are the ones that would result in the highest amount of outcome, just depending on what it is, depending on the system. Like, if you come up with a product and it sells really well, and someone else comes up with a product and it doesn't sell as well, then it looks like your product was a better idea. It's been a minute since I've had a troll in the chat, actually. White nationalism and anti-SJW ideas sell pretty well. Do they? I don't think they do, actually. Who has the power? It's not about who has the power. It's kind of a non sequitur, or it's like the question doesn't make sense. What is an example of white nationalism selling well? White nationalism is not a popular idea. It is detested by most At least most Americans. I don't know about your country. So this is the problem, and this is what anti-capitalist people always do. When they bring it up in the abstract, they say, okay, what do you like? What would you like? What would you want to happen? What makes sense to you? And so you answer in the abstract, but then they say, well, no, that can't work because look what happens in reality. Well, obviously, our system doesn't work right in reality. We're talking about you asked me about what I like in the abstract. You can't use an example from reality because socialists hate when you do that to them. When you say, "Oh, well, what about when people did socialism this time?" They're like, "Well, no, that's not the real thing. That's not the type of socialism I want." Well, how come I can't say this isn't the type of capitalism I want? This is what I was talking about. Like whenever I get into these discussions, it happens on both sides. Like it's never really a good faith discussion. Hey, I just watched your Tina Fey video. Cool. What'd you think about it? That's like that happens like every like 100% of the time that I have this conversation. Like you're never gonna find me saying that our current system is good. It's completely broken and we need to almost start over. But when we're talking about sort of abstract ideas that appeal to me, a lot of them are provided by capitalism. But of course, a lot of anti-capitalists believe that you can have all of the good stuff with capitalism without all of the bad stuff in their system, because of course everyone's favored system is a utopia where everything works out in some way. The our system got the way it was because of lack of accountability and because of corruption. So if you've got a system that somehow eliminates corruption, I want to know how that works. So we have to fight corruption. And corruption is not unique to capitalism. And corruption is going to happen in, because humans are just prone to be trash. So with any system, you need to build in some kind of measure to tackle, disincentivize, and prevent corruption. In terms of climate change, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, so I don't know what you need to do. But it seems that climate change is caused by in the impact that corporations have on the environment, which is something we could easily regulate.
Merry Christmas. Great video, by the way. It's funny because they are black is something that so many people will never be able to wrap their heads around.
Thank you for the super chat, new maid. Corruption is more likely to happen with huge financial benefits. I agree. So maybe we could find a way to make sure there aren't huge financial benefits. I don't mind the utopian thinking. What I mind is sort of the inconsistency where someone can someone can make an argument, but they won't allow you to make the exact same argument for their preferred view. That's the thing that's kind of obnoxious. I think that you can disincentivize corruption while still doing capitalism. Like it is literally legal to bribe congressmen in America. That's not a necessary aspect of capitalism. That's just some bullshit that we do that has disastrous results. You know, it is literally legal to suppress the vote and to subvert democracy. That's not a necessary aspect of capitalism. The sort of corruption is only a logical conclusion if we just let it happen and we don't do anything about it. We don't have anything in place to combat it. Which I don't know. Like whenever people talk about capitalism, they just completely lose their imaginations. You just can't imagine, and a lot of it I don't even think is hard. Like, I don't know. You can do a lot by changing the law. And we've already done it. Like we've seen it before. Like there's a lot of discrimination in the country, but there would be a whole lot more if we didn't have anti-discrimination laws. It's crazy. Like people can imagine like these massive utopias where everything magically works out, but just lack the imagination of any kind of capitalism reform. That selective imagination. I think that most people would argue that any form of socialism or communism that has failed or has had poor results is not true socialism or communism, because that would be a pretty a pretty unconvincing argument if it weren't. Well, I don't really agree with the libertarian version of capitalism. I think that we need heavy government oversight of uh, of the private enterprises and of the market. How would we eliminate poverty? There's many ways you could eliminate poverty. I feel like that's like the least of our worries. I mean, the common one people talk about now is universal basic income, but there's a lot of things you can do. Making healthcare free would go a long way towards that. Increasing the minimum wage would go a long way towards that. I think eliminating poverty is probably like the easiest part of reforming capitalism. But it would require a system of laws. Like you can't just you can't just like pull money out of thin air. Like it's gonna require a redistribution of wealth. 100%, it's going to require that. And there's lots of different ways you do that. And like I said, I don't have all of the answers. We can try anything. We can try. I'm willing to try anything as long as it makes people's lives better. Well, see, I mean, I think that's the problem with a lot of these labels, because I think when a lot of people say socialism or anarchism or whatever, their definition of that is my system that is successful and doesn't have flaws. So if it has flaws, then it automatically isn't what they're talking about, which, is convenient. And the same thing with capitalism. People do the same thing with capitalism. Capitalism isn't working the way I'm talking about, then it's not really capitalism. And on the flip side, people say their definition of capitalism is, well, it's the system we have now that's broken and fucked up and bad for everybody. That's capitalism. So, and that's so whenever you say you're promoting capitalism, you're promoting this horrible unequal, poverty-stricken unequal system, and that's bad. So, your take is bad because that's what capitalism is. Weird video to upload on Christmas Eve. Well, I uploaded it yesterday, but I don't. Why is it weird? There should be. I mean, there should be no. I mean, I mean, I don't know. There's always going to be people, and that's part of the reason why we have the system that we have, is because Americans have been conditioned to believe in this, like, it's sort of conditioned to have this disdain for the poor and the sort of disabled and things like that. And so they don't tend to, a lot of Americans don't tend to support things that are obviously good for a lot of people. But obviously there should be a baseline of a standard of living for everybody. Like it should just be built into being a citizen in America, regardless of your status, regardless of if you're able-bodied, or regardless of if you're uh, white or black or man or woman or whatever. There should just be a built-in standard of living that a person can live and be good and be happy. And the people that want to do more and fight for more and work harder or try new stuff, then they should be able to profit off of that. Yeah, a wealth limit is another thing that's been proposed. I'd be willing to try it. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people have done analysis of that. Suppose you fell into a Futurama cryotube and when you woke up the world was communist. Would you want capitalism to come back? I mean, I guess it just depends on how the world was. If the world was better, then no. Well, that's the thing with leftists. Many of them, perhaps most of them, are still push for reform of capitalism because they understand that it has immediate benefits that help people. But there is also a large segment of people who are like, fuck it, if it ain't socialism, I ain't doing it. So they basically think that if you're like a social democrat or a progressive liberal, then you're just a waste of time and they don't want to support you. And they basically are just waiting for capitalism to implode and crash so that they can like, or they want to like forcibly take down capitalism so that they can start things over. And I don't know about all that. But we are approaching the 2 hour mark, everyone. So I'm going to leave in about 5 minutes. Definitely had a hearty conversation this time. Always appreciate it. If you've got one last question or comment, we can probably read some of those. Hope you guys enjoy your holiday if you are doing anything. And if not, I hope you just have a decent day. Thanks to people that gave me some super chats. Favorite dish you bring into the Christmas smorgasbord? I'm not actually bringing a dish. I guess our compromise. I'm bringing all of the plates and cups and forks, and also bringing the drinks. So I didn't make a dish, but I'm sure we're gonna have, like, we do it big on Christmas. Our Christmas dinner is just as big as our Thanksgiving dinner, so we like go hard. Yeah, I'm gonna do Twitch. I don't know the schedule, but like I said, I'm probably gonna start out doing it just once a week, and I'll figure that out. I'm thinking. Let's see. Maybe Tuesday. So maybe I'll do like the YouTube stream Monday and the other stream Tuesday. Definitely not tomorrow, but maybe. But by the way, if you would like to see a sort of a replay of like the full replay of this stream and any past streams, there is a playlist. It's a unlisted playlist, so you need the link to see it, but it should be in the description below the video if you're just interested in that, if you just want to sit and watch like a 2-hour video. As I said, I stream every Monday. So I think the best way to keep up with the stream is to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon and enable notifications. So if you want to do that, you can do that. But if you go to theonejanitor.com/live, there will be a counter on that page telling you when the next video should be. So whenever I finish this video, I'm going to enable the timer, the countdown to the next video, which should be a week from today, which is what? I guess it's the 31st, right? So New Year's Eve. Maybe I should do well, no, I'm probably not going to. I was going to say maybe I should bring in the new year on the stream, but I'm probably going to be doing something. Probably going to be like drinking with friends or something. But we can have a little New Year's Eve stream next week. Is never having to use sun cream worth the negative aspects of being a member of a historically oppressed minority? I sense some sarcasm there. But, and by the way, some, black people use sunscreen also. I don't, but a lot of people do. But I appreciate not having to. Merry Christmas, Rex. Well, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and go. I'll see you guys Monday. Hope you guys have happy holidays, happy Christmas, happy Boxing Day, happy Christmas tide, whatever you celebrate. And if you don't celebrate everything, I hope you just have a happy Monday and a happy Tuesday. And follow me on my Twitter. Just check all the links in the description. If you want to support me long term, consider becoming a patron. That's like a really big deal for me. So just want to throw that in there. Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Go check out my most recent video if you haven't yet. It's about Tina Fey. But that's it. Bye.